All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you guys are able to hear me and everybody is actually able to join for our live broadcast today for Silver Tears Tarot. So, definitely welcome. I hope the day or the evening has been going. I guess for some of you it's likely to be in the afternoon, and some of you it's likely to be a little bit later in the day, maybe even getting on toward after work. So, I guess I would just say, thank you so much for being here with us. And, one of the things that I wanted to go ahead and talk about was kind of the energy of today and what's coming through in the notes I'm getting from you guys. So, we're moving toward that eclipse tomorrow, and things feel intense. So they have for a couple days. It's in traffic, it's in society. It's just kind of, it's everywhere. Not necessarily always bad, but definitely, I would say in Technicolor. So it's very super intense emotions and attractions that seem like they're kind of coming out of nowhere. Somebody commented about, or I think it might have been in a note, sent me a note about like having gone on a date, and meeting someone else that was also on a date. It was like there was just attraction kind of going everywhere. And I thought that is not completely unlike what I'm hearing in some cases. Definitely some of you are not having a great time with this energy, but a few of you are navigating it without too many. A little bit. I have a couple things that I want to tell you guys that, like I said, we've got the full moon lunar eclipse reading is going to be tomorrow, because we've got to talk about that energy. I mean, it's already kind of everywhere. I feel like it's really going to influence us today. But so tomorrow we'll just do a reading on that. Will be soulmate related. And then we'll do the thank you reading on Sunday. So the thank you reading has, if you haven't seen it, has a built-in extended. So if you've never gotten an extended before, you kind of get a feel for what one of those looks like. So just let me know what kind of topics you're looking for. As always, email, social media inbox is probably best. I read all those. I also try to read the comments under videos and social media posts, but those are sometimes a little bit tougher to keep up with everything else. Um, so we'll go ahead and get into kind of how this works. So, we'll use the same questions that we had last week. You can ask questions in the chat as they come up, and we'll try and get those in too. So sometimes a chat won't post, or if for some reason something doesn't happen, if I can't catch it, I'll catch it later on and I'll answer it later on. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening with the masculine. That's going to be the first question that we ask. We will do the will they reach out, should you reach out question, kind of just more or less what's the energy around communication. And then also moving on, what is next, what's coming in the energy for you. So we know that some of you have somebody coming in from the past. For some of you, it's this person being reincorporated into your energy in more of a physical way. So I know that's happening for some of you and definitely not for others. But there is a lot of attraction. It's almost like it's springtime. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. And so, like I always say, it's a general reading. It is going to be for this collective, though. So it's not going to resonate with everybody. Really shouldn't resonate with everybody. And I say that in every reading, but it's just really true. It's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. If it's you, though, if this ends up being your story, you may want to take a look at some of the other readings because they are very much connected. When we get out here and do these, it's the same collective energy that I'm pulling on. And so if something resonates for you in one, you may find that it resonates for you in others. Um, so we will go ahead and jump in, and we're going to start, like I was saying, not just their energy, but it's kind of what's happening with them. What is in their environment? What is in their feelings? So it's kind of like their energetic and emotional situation, but specific to your person. Um, and one thing I would say is we would invite advice to come out for you at any time. Advice for the collective to come out at any time, because these topics could have quite a bit of advice. So there's change. That's the death card. First thing coming out is absolutely, there's a lot of change energy. It's almost like moving into something different, moving over to something different kind of energy, setting something down, picking something else up. It is definitely an end to something and a beginning to something else, but it also feels a little bit like, it's not necessarily that whatever it is that ends for them goes away. It's like they go away from it and they move towards something else. Let's see. What else wants to come out here? That's interesting. That's definitely what I caught in the date energy from the story that I heard from last night. So there's that Nine of Swords. Here's that anxiety that seems like it's wanting to kind of come through as well. A lot of anxiety in the energy, but it's the kind that you can breathe through. It's not end of the world type anxiety, I guess. I'm trying to figure out how best to describe it. It's not it doesn't feel severe. It doesn't feel it's not something that really ruins your ability to function. It's not too bad, but it's definitely not something you could ignore. And there's this is the Wanderer card. So this is like the Fool card in the traditional tarot. So you've got the Death card, which is all about change, anxiety, but manageable levels of anxiety, and a need to jump into something new. And that really does almost feel like a need for them to jump into something new. So this is energy that's on the move. I guess, this is a good time for us to be looking at this one. And I guess it fits because every time we get around to that thank you reading I do one each month. I started out doing one at the beginning of the first month, and I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly why I was prompted to do it the first time, but after that, I'm just like, I'm going to make it a tradition because I'm always incredibly thankful, and the energy from this collective is amazing. Um, but this is a good time to look at this because there's definitely some change going on here. Um, let's see. What else wants to come out here? And I see we have people on. And hello. I'm able to witness some of the chat. Um, Sometimes I think I'm focused on the cards, and that's why I was worried I was going to miss some of the chats, but I'm seeing them. So thank you for joining. It's a whole different feeling when you guys are here. So we've got the Two of Swords in the reverse. Okay, so the fact that things are shifting and changing with them, not necessarily an easy transition for them. So they feel a need to jump into something new, but not necessarily a lot of ease around that energy. This is something it's tough for them. Hello. Okay, we've got I'm going to take those separately. So we've got the Two of Cups in the reverse, the Eight of Wands in the upright, and we're going to do it in the order that they came out. So I don't know how far into these we'll go. So we've got the Two of Cups in reverse. This is them. There's this really interesting energy with this person. So there's a sense of them kind of a partnership falling apart, but not necessarily the primary, like the one that we've been focusing on, that third party. It's not necessarily that partnership that's falling apart. There is something else that, because of the changes that are happening in them, they're seeing some changes in the rest of their life. This feels a little bit less direct, but it's still going to impact them, especially right about now. They've got something that's changing in their life, kind of pushing them in a new direction. One of the things that really stands out for them is the fact that they feel like they haven't been treated fairly in this. They feel like they haven't gotten really just what they deserve out of this. They haven't gotten what they've put into it. So this is a time where they're feeling, like I was saying, that anxiety is it's not being something that totally drives them. They do have a little bit of that emotional self-mastery that is ringing true for them. It's really just this is a tough energy for them to navigate, but it's also like the best time for them to be navigating it because they've got this ability with this Eight of Pentacles and this Eight of Wands. I'll get to that in just a second. But this Eight of Pentacles is it's a moment of, I realize where I am. There's an emotional self mastery that comes with this, and almost an emotional independence that comes along with it because of the addition of the Six of Pentacles. So they have this like emotional moment of clarity at a time that they're also very inclined to move forward with something. So this Eight of Wands says they're incredibly inclined to move forward with something. Okay. And I see your note. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this. This is an interesting energy with them. So they've got a lot of awareness of what's happening on a fairly deep level, like on a level that they're not usually willing to come out and think about. You know, we often will see what they aren't able to articulate, and this is them almost they're getting closer to being able to articulate some things that in the past haven't really been an option. So we've got the Magician here. Okay, this is critical. So I know some of you have already reached, or they've already received a communication, and then there are some of you where you can feel them close to doing something. This is their ability to hit send. It's not the inclination to hit send necessarily, but it's the ability to hit send. And we don't want that. We do want this, and we don't want that. All right. So there is the ability to hit send, not necessarily the inclination to hit send, although it's like a really important piece of being able to move forward, because it's that activation energy that I feel coming with this. Then you got the Wheel of Fortune, which is talking about not just the sort of change that comes with the Death card, but also the sort of change that comes along with really seeing things differently. Like this is happening, like I was saying, at a really good time, because they have some just good mastery over the situation. They have some idea of what it is they're dealing with. That's very promising. It's very promising. They have they're ready and able to communicate if they make the decision to go that way. But the thing is, um, some of them, they make the decision to go that way, and it's like they get there very rapidly. It's not necessarily a rash decision, as it were. It's a well supported decision, but they're just not afraid to charge forward, and it's a mood that they get into. So it's not necessarily this is the new them. It's kind of the place that they find themselves, and they all of a sudden, on top of all of this, yes, I feel anxiety, but I also feel this emotional ability to manage myself. I feel like I've got to charge forward. Oh, and I want to. You know, that's all coming together, and kind of culminating in one place, but it's a well supported energy. And what I mean by that is it is supported by the rest of their psyche. So it's not like they're going into some sort of weird overload, when they go to try and move forward. I guess the question is, there's still the feeling of this decision over here not being made and not being easy to make. So they're being very intentional, when they are able to see kind of what's in front of them, and that's the energy that they're in. There is nothing showing up as controlling them at this time, which is what I was especially worried about. So this is kind of a neat thing. This is really kind of a neat energy to find them in right now, where their soul is opening up, their soul is changing, but they're not clinching back up just yet. So we know that we've seen that pattern with them. It's likely to happen, but it's not happening right now. So let's look at the communication energy. I think that one, I got probably more personal email, or, like instant messenger type response from the fact that we covered it last week. And it was really, should I expect them to communicate? What's the nature of communication? Should you be reaching out and communicating? It's kind of a more of a communication question, for those of you who are seeking the nature of that. So you've got somebody who is probably really thinking about reaching out if they haven't already. And what's that going to be like? What's the environment around that communication? This is interesting because it feels electric immediately. And remember, last week, I hope it doesn't happen this week. It hasn't happened yet. Last week, as soon as we started looking into communication, my throat like closed up. Don't go back and listen to that. It's terrible. My throat like and it wasn't closed up like an allergic reaction. It was just all of a sudden I had to have a drink of water, and it was one of those things that's never really happened. And it stopped as soon as we stopped talking about communication. So we have a Knight of Wands here. This is I mean, it's going to be that in and out sort of behavior. It's not necessarily communication that okay, now they're back to making communication, consistent communication for the long term. It could just kind of be dipping in to say hello. Just a little bit of, you run into them someplace. That's definitely something that's in this energy. Potential for running into them someplace, or running into them in a situation where it's a, if you work in a similar place, it could be something like that. Um, okay, so we have a Five of Cups in the reverse. I like the Five of Cups in the reverse because it's bringing in a lot of this self-aware energy. This is a balanced energy. It's one that recognizes what's gone wrong, but also is able to say, I understand, and I can also take into account what's gone well. Um, so that leads to a more stable communication. If you are able to have communication, it's a little bit more stable in this energy. And it's because of the energy that they find themselves in, honestly. This over here. There is a need to make things right. So that's part of what this, it feels like this Justice card is completely linked to this Fool card. So this is like somebody who actually just wants to make things right. Like they want to improve things, and they've got a reasonably balanced way of looking at it, but it's not necessarily a long-term commitment for conversation. Okay, we have the Hierophant, but somebody's telling them they need to do this. There's some sort of, there will be a couple of people who are going through a 12-step program, I think, but this is more, they're being told by somebody that's close to them. It could be somebody that's like their therapist, could be a friend. It's in most cases not, they're not talking about this very much with their friends and family. So there's a lot of them getting advice from sort of different places, but everything they're seeing is pointing them in the direction of, you need to resolve this, you need to reach out, you need to resolve. So it starts to feel like to reach out and communicate. But it also, with the Queen of Swords in the reverse here, this feels a little bit better to me because it's not, again, not a rash decision. It may be a quick decision, but it doesn't feel like a rash decision that is poorly considered. And, um, those have a tendency to go poorly or more poorly. This may be awkward. This may not be a great communication, but at least they're feeling drawn like they have to do it. The only thing is they're not really feeling ready, and I was feeling that one pretty strongly. Like they don't feel ready to have this, but I feel like they recover quickly. They're able to jump into this. They're able to have a good communication or conversation with you once they loosen up a little bit. But they never really stop with the overthinking. So there is still this sense in them. It's not, again, it's not like you're dealing with a new version of them. You are dealing with a version that has had a little bit of healing, but you've got a lot of consternation, a lot of fear still wrapped up in there. A lot of, what did I just say? What have I said so far? Overthinking, like while they're in the middle of the conversation. It's that sort of thing. So it's their confidence that brings them there, but you're going to see a little bit of I don't know how much vulnerability you see as a result of this, but you definitely see them a little bit kind of grasping for, reaching for that comfort to come back. This is what concerns me a little bit, though. We've got a Five of Swords, which feels like them walking away from the communication with some sort of not necessarily a misunderstanding, but it's a communication that doesn't necessarily get wrapped up as well as you would like for it to. So it necessitates a future conversation to kind of get everything cleared up. they walk away thinking, wait a minute, what did I just say? That probably implied something that, makes them feel uncomfortable to a certain degree, makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable. Um, okay, so we've got this one. They're very much guided to have the conversation, though. And you have the Ace of Wands. This is sometimes lately we've seen this one coming out talking about getting in their own way or self destructive behavior. This is actually constructive types of behavior. This is wanting to make things right, like we saw with the Justice card. And the Star card is being able to find some of the truth and the guidance, to at least some direction to be able to figure out, like, what does this mean? They actually want to do right by themselves. They want to do right by you. There is some conscious intention that is good. Sometimes when we look at a situation, it makes a lot of sense to kind of look at the intention behind it, because if they didn't mean to be a certain way, then maybe you take it slightly differently. Here, what you're seeing is they may kind of botch the delivery a little bit. I get the sense they may botch the delivery a little bit, but their intention is still pretty good. So we have the creator card that's coming up, and it tells me there's some sort of limitation. As they're communicating with you, you're able to say, there's something in here that says, okay, it's not necessarily a showstopper, or it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it is something that makes you say, I've got a barrier or a boundary here. Helps you to establish it. And it feels like it's a difficult thing to communicate, and it ends up feeling a little slippery and going into you walk away from it wondering if you've communicated it properly. So this has that sense of a codependency to it, but I don't think you go into the codependency. I think you walk away from it being afraid that you were perceived that way. So ultimately, though, it has a positive effect. This is an honorable mention, and you guys know it'll come back out if it needs to come back out. But basically, what this is giving us is this is going to turn out fine. This is going to end up being a win. It's going to end up being fine. You're going to get closer to that balance. I'm not convinced with the way that both of you walk away from this conversation or this communication, that you are feeling like everything is resolved, because definitely it doesn't give me that sense. I feel like you get to a new place, though, that is incredibly constructive. And man, there are a lot of people, and you know what? We saw this, a lot of people as we get toward the timing of the conclusion of the eclipse cycle. That's what we originally, well, that's what came out in at least a couple of the readings, that as we get close to the conclusion of the eclipse cycle, we're going to see some people reaching out. And we've got some holdouts for sure. Some people you're not going to hear from, but definitely there's been an uptick in the notes that I've been getting, and there's continues to be this uptick in the energy. I'm a little bit blown away by the confidence over here. I don't know that expect is the right word, because I know better than to expect much of anything specific when I get into these readings, but it is it's nice to see. It's nice to see, because it looks like growth on their side. It brings you closer to a place of reconciliation. And what I've seen in the notes where someone says, yes, they have reached out, is not complete reconciliation. What I see is something that may be relatively brief. Maybe they don't call back when they say they're going to call back. But there's something that changes in there, and something that changes kind of for the better. So moving toward that reconciliation, even if not completely back in reunion. So I feel like that's a positive movement. I'm not hearing a lot of, well, they drunk texted me and then blocked me, which is what we were hearing back in April, when the last time we had an eclipse cycle, and we had a similar sort of uptick in people that were reaching back out. We have the Ace of Pentacles here, which again kind of just reminds us that we're not going to have all the answers with this communication, but it does kind of keep the ball in the air. Um, there is a tendency, though, to kind of realize, so they are still utilizing your strength to a certain degree, or leaning on you a little. Um, and it's not so much leaning on you for your strength as leaning on you for your attention. In some cases, this is going to be a little bit more mellow, where they've got this feeling of this runner chaser feeling, and they want to make sure that when they turn around that you're there still, kind of chasing them. And then you've got some people that are a little bit more toward narcissistic tendencies, who are utilizing you as supply. So be careful of that. So there's a tendency here for you, though, and this feels like it's associated with this creator. Here comes the throat thing. Um, you found something here that is not necessarily a showstopper, but something that absolutely, you've got to set a boundary. You've got to set a boundary, and that's kind of what this feels like. This is something, a former boundary that is being defined as being in the wrong direction, and it does not get resolved right away. It does not get resolved right away. However, it looks like there's an interplay of energy that results from this, and that's what the Knight of Wands is. It's the same kind of Knight of Wands energy that we have up here, but it's a feeling of requiring more than one round to resolve. There is a sense of disappointment, but there's also a sense of, no, it's not bad. You reframe and you realize you're moving forward, but there will be a moment of saying, oh, I really wish this had gone differently, before you go, hold on, this is improvement no matter how you cut it. So it ends up being improvement, but it may be less of a significant step than what you had originally hoped. And yet, if you take a step back, the way this looks to me, it is a dramatic step forward in your growth and in their growth. So I think there's really nothing negative about the mood that they're in, the place that they find themselves. It might be a little intense when they reach out. The energy around everything's a little bit intense. That I feel like you roll with this. I feel like you're going to be able to roll with this. And so when we look into what's next, this is, and I'm sorry, I know this is getting to be kind of a long reading. I'm just kind of rolling here. But if it's not long, if it's too long and you have to jump back off, then it'll be back up and you guys will be able to watch it later. Or if there's something you feel like you need to hear again. So when we look at what's moving, like what's next as you're moving on, though, this is the energy and where you're headed. So this is going to be more heavy with things. So you got a Page of Cups, but in the reverse. This one's telling you, it's a desire not to, it's a recommendation not to reach out, but it's not just not reaching out to this person. There is a sense of like an email you need to not send. So it goes a little bit broader than that. Be watching um, what you say and to whom. Um, just kind of be careful that you get your thoughts organized before you put out on paper, an email, or in a place where people can really get them. Let's see here. I appreciate it with the comment around the amount of time it takes. I try to keep them a relatively consistent amount of time, but sometimes they do get away from me a little bit. This is there's a lot of energy swirling around, and I feel like it's not undecided. That's not the reason it's taking a long time for the cards to come out. I'll say that. Okay, so you're being recommended not to be the one who reaches out for something, or there's an email that you don't want to send. And yet there's something incredibly social or political going on. Feels like it's something that comes up as you're going into, almost associated with the holiday season, possibly. You've got the Five of Swords here, so that's your own concerns, but it's like, it's self-doubt, but it ends up being a perception, and it's not really that there's, like, you can go ahead and move confidently forward, and if you're in the process of moving forward and somewhere in the middle of that you say, what the heck am I thinking, keep going, like, keep going. This is not stop and reevaluate yourself sort of energy. This is, there may be definitely some things that you have to think about. There may be some concerns that you have moving forward, but just, it's not telling you to stop. It's not telling you to stop. Keep feeling your way is what I get. Keep feeling your way. Utilize the intuition as it comes to you, and ask for the messages that you don't feel like you're receiving, or that you feel like you need but aren't getting. You've got the strength card coming here. This feels like that energy that I've heard throughout some of these readings about your flame is growing as you go into the latter portion of this year. This strength card really feels like that to me. You've got the 10 of swords in the reverse. This is addressing something that has, if it hasn't already triggered you, it's about to. Um, but it's not like you'll make short work of it. It's not about this person, or this person may be involved, but that's not what it is. And it's something that is a deep-seated issue, similar to the types of things that you're working on with this person, but not necessarily from the same angles. So you're going to get, like one person mentioned getting triggered about they had gotten poorly treated in a job situation, and they ran into some people from that job, and it triggered them back to, hey, I thought I had addressed some of this, but it's obviously not all gone. Um, there is like you're going to be able to heal yourself from this because of what you've learned with this person, but it won't be instantaneous. It'll take you a little bit of time. You've got that strength though. I love that strength because that's exactly what I mean. I just have all the confidence that you can clearly wade through all of this, any uncertainty, anything that comes from this being triggered. You're going to end up in a place where you're more healed from whatever this is. That it's something that goes way back. It's not about this person. I don't even get that it's a past romantic relationship, but I do get the sense that it's probably been perpetuated in cycle form. If it's not at work, then it's been in the form of some of your other relationships. But you are going to move forward and set things right. So we definitely, I feel it there. You're going to know you're setting it right when you do it though. So what's frustrating here is that you can feel yourself able to heal yourself. Like that will be the first step. You're going to get triggered and then you're going to say, wait, I've got this. And then you're going to be like, okay, where is it? Like, I know I've got this. And so it's a little bit frustrating, but when it finally clicks into place, you are absolutely going to feel it. You're going to feel it click into place. So there is something that's very positive here in your healing and something that comes to light for you. Part of what comes to light for you is like your next quest. And by quest, I mean, what is the next set of things that you want to look to solve within yourself? And so we've got devil energy coming out, and it's like the most positive usage of devil energy I've ever seen. So it's like you get through this catharsis of solving something, you feel it click into place. All of a sudden, you see the next frontier and you're like, oh, here's the next hill I have to climb. But you feel good about it. Like you have this ability to you feel revitalized somehow in the healing that you've already done, so that when you go toward this thing that still exerts some control over your life, whatever it is, this could be some form of overthinking, it could be some sort of addictive or obsessive behavior, it could come in very many forms, as many forms as there are people. But when you see it, you're going to say, all right, I'm ready to jump into this. And of course, it will not necessarily be as simple as that, but your attitude moving toward it is excellent. And then this one's not part, but well, this is, I like the, I don't frequently like devil energy. I will almost never say that this is great, but this is kind of neat because it comes out at exactly the right time. Like you'll see it for what it is, but you have, feels a little bit like this. It's incredibly self-aware. It reminds me a little bit of the energy that your soulmate is in. Um, it's, and I'm going to go ahead and pull you an oracle card when we get to the end of this, because I'm not going to do an extended on this reading like I didn't last week, and I thought I might this week. I can't promise I never will, but I don't get the sense that I should. So I am going to do the oracle card, and then we'll just kind of go from there, as far as what kind of questions come out for you. So we have the Four of Wands here in the reverse. The one thing that I would say, that I feel in this is you're going to have something that it's going to be something that, knocks you off of your center a little bit. Again, I can't stress enough how prepared for this you are. And There's that balance. There's the balance. So the balance, you guys are going to end up being fine. And this card came out to kind of say, listen, I know it feels like it's a little bit rocky in there. Both of you walk away not being super sure about what you're seeing. But the balance does come in. And you've got a lot of just your own internal reconciliation balance. Because remember, this has got to be your internal reconciliation, and then it's reconciliation between the two of you before reunion would really be enabled. And this is part of your internal reconciliation. That's what you're moving toward. You're going to see and feel things falling into place. You're going to see and feel, well, here's my next step. Because sometimes that's tough. When you figure something out, even understanding kind of what the next one's going to be. And I'm seeing your notes come through. I absolutely love you guys. It's my first time here as well, kind of making this actually work. Not my first attempt, just my first success. So we've got the Hermit card coming out here for you. All right, so you're going to spend some time thinking on this healing and how it is associating with whatever this new hill is that you've got to climb. This feels a lot more like, so you're looking for wisdom here and you're going to find it. But I feel like you're also building some strategy in here. So I see the King of Cups, which kind of means that it's got that charisma in it. You've got a sense of charisma and strength. It goes associated. It feels like it's with this strength card. I also feel like that energy of the King of Swords in here, though. It comes out with the Hermit card more than anything, but it's got that sense of really just being able to look at the big picture and build a strategy and have it be something that makes good sense. It makes good sense, but it's like it's an easy thing to communicate. It's an easy thing to be charismatic about because because of the way that you bring, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe it. You are incredibly put together the way that you approach your next set of problems. I've seen lots and lots of times in these readings that like the worst of it, the greatest pain is behind you. Some of it comes in the form of some of these Ten of Swords memories, things that happened to you early in childhood, way back in the past. And then some of it comes to you in the form of what you're experiencing here with this person and kind of what's being reawakened, the healing that's being reawakened in the wake of their movement into your life and kind of getting in there and moving around. But you have a lot of success that you're moving toward, and you're not at the end of the road, but by all means it does look like it gets a lot better. Let's grab you guys that oracle card. Let's get the oracle card. I like the overall feeling of this reading going into the weekend with this kind of feeling. Is it's very